Welcome to the F1 Time Portal, a Formula One history podcast started by two absorbing Formula One fans. I'm your host, Rosa.
And I'm your Don't Go Breaking My Heart host, Luigi. And today we're taking you back to the 1976 season, Part 8. And I think it's our final. Let's go.
Yes.
It's been a long one.
No.
Yeah.
And it is going to break my heart, Louis. That's a good one. That's a good song.
Yeah, the way this season ends, it doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on, does it?
Not at all. No, it's a heartbreaker. And who sings it? Tell me who sings it.
Oh, you don't know? You know the song, as always.
I know the song. Yeah.
Yeah. Elton John.
Oh, is it really?
You probably thought, did you think it was a woman?
Yes. Yes, I did.
He does sing with a bit of a high voice, but no, it's a male voice.
Wow.
No, it's definitely Elton John.
Okay, there you go.
Well, let's wrap this fairly big season up. Like one of the most emotionally draining ones with the most controversies by far.
Yeah.
Okay, so
up until now. There's probably more in the future.
Oh, there's definitely more in the future, but they're not as during the season.
No.
This one's got lots of what I would call 8 out of 10 punches through the season, whereas the incidences I think you're talking about are more like 10 out of 10 moments, bangs at the end.
Yes, and there's fewer moments, but they're 10 out of 10, exactly.
Yeah, these are a lot of 8s and 7s, and how can there be so many of those in a row?
I'm with you. I agree with you.
So this is race 15 of 16, the United States Grand Prix East. So unlike the other ones, the earlier one in the US, I can't remember where it was now. It's right at the beginning of this series.
It was California, wasn't it?
Long Beach. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is Watkins Glen. October 10, 59 laps, and the weather was cool and dry. So we head to this race with much attention on James Hunt, as he was now only 8 points. All adjusted, all clean. Remember we clarified that? All
adjusted, all clear, yes.
No tricks, no court cases pending.
No.
88 points behind Lauda in the championship.
Yeah. At Canada, he was definitely the on-form driver, and he's coming into this race really hyped up, I guess, with only 8 points, championships back on. And just prior to this race weekend, Hunt had completed a lap faster than the pole time of 1975. So he was on fire. Both he and Lauda realised, though, that the press were playing them against each other. They were kind of trying to start fights. And so when they arrived at Watkins Glen, they shook hands in front of the cameras and they continued their good relationship, and they put it all behind them, even staying in adjoining hotel rooms and socialising together. So the press kind of left them alone.
Yeah, but you don't see that.
Yeah, it was very hyped, very hyped race weekend.
Understandably, So when it came to qualifying, the weather on the first morning session was wet. So while there were some entertaining runs by Stuck using opposite lock, it was ultimately the afternoon session when the weather improved that the grid setting times were really being set.
When you say opposite lock, do you reckon he was just sliding all over the track?
Yeah, like turning.
That's what I imagine.
Yeah, and that's what you do when you're go-karting and it's fun.
Yeah.
You feel the back end just going totally loose, and you're rally driving. You're treating it like a rally driver. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that would have been awesome to see. And that was, I think, Mike Lang's words as well, opposite lock. So
okay.
Go. Yeah, but it was Hunt who took pole by 0.2 of a second from Scheckter. That's pretty exciting for Scheckter. And Peterson third, Brambilla fourth. This time Mike didn't make any snarky comments about Brambilla.
Yeah, he's starting to accept him.
He's starting to accept him as a decent driver.
He's been pretty consistent lately, hasn't he? So he hasn't given Mike Lang a reason, i.e. crashing or taking someone out recently.
That's right.
Lauda was fifth and again was the faster Ferrari driver, with Regazzoni well down in 14th.
Wow. So it's on, Luigi, championship.
Well, it's been on most of the season, but yeah.
Well, now it's really on.
It's really on, the second to last race.
So Saturday practice was essentially rained out. The times on Friday night set the grid then. So that meant that on race day, the Sunday morning warm-up session was frantic.
Yeah, they had very little running on this track.
Running time. Yep.
Yeah. So many drivers were doing their best to set their cars up for the race, as they really had only one session, and it was all about the qualifying. So let's see what they could do with their race car setup.
So overnight snow fell on the circuit.
Wow.
Weird. But the sun came out on Sunday as 100,000 fans, the largest paying crowd ever at the Glen, came out to see the championship battle.
Yeah. Those are numbers we see today.
I know.
These are massive numbers. So this was like a real peak of Formula One.
I know. And when you look at the vision of this season, like the crowd is still quite close up to the fence, right? What? Yeah. So you would have got a good view. Nowadays, probably not as much. So to the race start, all the cars except Stuck made a good start when the lights turned green, and it was Scheckter from second on the grid who had moved sufficiently ahead of Hunt to enable him to cut across the McLaren to take the lead going into the first right-hander. Hunt's done this a bit lately. I think he's being very conservative with his starts.
I know.
He's being outraced to the first corner. I think the shunt days are kind of plaguing him a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. He's definitely it has been like this since Lauda had his accident, primarily. Yeah, so he can't risk being taken out, and being so close to the championship. Well, he needs to be aggressive because he's still 8 points behind. That's like a win, so he can't just sit back and think he can, walk it in or something. So within 2 laps, Scheckter was not just holding on to the lead, he was starting to stretch the lead. And in turn, Hunt was also starting to pull away from the 2 marchers that were following him.
Okay, this is the signs of a boring race already. Everyone's just going to run their own race. It later turned out
you're making that call very early and just saying,
I am. It's only the lap 1, but it's only lap 2.
Yeah.
It turned out later that both March cars were nursing separate issues, and they were fast becoming a serious agitation to the following cars, as they were essentially becoming moving chicanes.
Well, it's up to those cars following to show that they have the pace to pass. So it's not up to the March cars to wave them through. It's not like they're being lapped or anything, So eventually Lauda, first in line behind the March duo, muscled his way past on lap 4. And once in third place, he set about trying to close the now 6-second gap to second-placed James Hunt.
Mm-hmm. Well, Lauda knows how to take the championship race to will make it exciting. With Scheckter a further 3 seconds up the road in the lead. Interestingly, if Lauda can catch and pass Hunt and stay there to race to the end, he would be world champion. So,
by lap 15, the position of the leading 3 drivers were primarily unchanged. With Lafitte now in 4th place, Peterson's March had retired in the meantime, and probably Brambilla will retire soon too, I suspect, that March car.
Yeah, so right about now is when a very nasty moment took place. Ickx was caught up in a 4-car battle for 13th place with Perkins, Jones and Fittipaldi.
Fittipaldi, we miss you. Why did you join Copasuca? Why? Look where your car is right now.
He's fighting for the 13th.
Anyway, Ickx suddenly felt the car become completely unstable, likely due to a suspension failure, and he couldn't stop the car from slamming into the guardrail head on. His car split in 2, with his front wheels and suspension wedged into the guardrail, and the rest of the car bouncing onto the middle of the track, with a huge flame ball engulfing the car. This reminds me so much of Nikki's accident. Amazingly, though, despite how horrific the incident looked, Ickx not only survived the accident, but he was able to get out of the burning wreckage and limp away. It turned out that he had only suffered a broken ankle and some minor burns. Very, very lucky. Yeah. So while the race at Germany was stopped when Lauda had his accident, this race followed the 1950s and 60s protocol and continued unstopped. So there is footage of F1 cars driving around this situation with a huge fire on the side of the track and with a fire truck next to it also on the track. It was just insanity. That is crazy. Scheckter, though, still the race leader, feared the worst, having seen a fireball car in 2 pieces, rescues, crews, etc., and no radio.
Well, he maintained his 2 to 3 second lead over Hunt, but Lauda was now closing in on the McLaren as he was struggling with oversteer issues. The mere fact that Lauda is still racing is so impressive to me.
Yeah, and just to clarify, Lauda was not closing in on the McLaren. He was not
Oh,
closing in on the McLaren because of the
oh,
oversteer issues. But yeah, that's the main thing is he wasn't catching Hunt. Yeah, so FYI, Mass, the driver we mentioned at the start who made a poor start while everyone else seemed to have made a good start, was making a charge. And we ask you to just pin this moment. It'll come back later. So at half race distance, Schechter's lead suddenly looked uncertain as Hunt was starting to close up on him, so much so that very quickly the McLaren was right on Schechter's Tyrrell tail.
mm. Well, Hunt's finally making his move. He's finally figured out that he's got to win this race. But at this very point, there was a series of minor dramas involving a few of the other drivers, which included Lafitte having a tread go on his tyre, which not only took him out, but the debris on the track from his car caused Brambilla to have a similar tread issue.
So with these retirements, this suddenly opened the path up for Mass to move up to fourth. And remember, Mass isn't a McLaren, Hunt's teammate. So while all of this is going on, Hunt was lining up to pass the leading Tyrrell driver, and on lap 37, remember this is a 59-lap race, Hunt cleanly passed Schechter to not only take the lead, but he quickly pulled out a 2-second lead.
That's pretty good racing, very patient and clean and professional. Definitely not Hunt the shunt anymore. He's matured as a driver, I think. And let's not forget, Schechter's not the easiest guy to pass on the track, especially if it's for the lead. So on lap 41, Hunt was delayed by a back marker and a muffled gear change allowed Schechter through back into the lead.
Let's see how this plays out because we're heading to the end of the race. Hunt clearly keen to make amends, retook the lead 5 laps later, and this time he really settled the issue by not only recording the fastest lap, but he pulled away by over 8 seconds.
So about a minute later, there was an exciting finish as Mas had caught right up to the oversteering Lauda and only missed out on taking third place by just 0.134 seconds.
And there you have, that's the pinned moment. Look how close that was. And that was Hunt's teammate. So good on McLaren for not taking out a Ferrari, hey?
Yes.
Unlike 64, but this is not the finale. Maybe the finale would happen. So Hunt takes this win emphatically. So is that 2 wins in a row? He won Canada, right? I have to check.
Yeah, he won Canada.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he won Canada.
So he won ahead of Schechter with Lauda third, Mass fourth in a photo finish, and stuck in the march just holding off Watson by 0.2 seconds. So that was pretty exciting. While Regazzoni in the other Ferrari finished 6th, 1 lap behind.
Where did Reutemann finish in this race, Louis?
I don't even know if he was in it. Remember, he wasn't in the last race? He wasn't in Canada. I'll have to check.
Oh, mate. No, he wasn't in it. He's not lying. He doesn't seem to be in it.
Okay. So, yeah, there you go. And Lauda injured. And he's still owning Regazzoni.
Yep.
It's just there's no words, right?
No words. Okay, so the championship standings then is Lauda's on 68, still in the lead. James Hunt second on 65, so he's closed the gap he was 8 points, so he's closed the gap by 5 points. Schechter's third on 49. And on the constructors side, Ferrari's first on 81, McLaren second on 70, and Tyrrell is third on 65.
Okay, so we're up to the finale, the 16th race of the season. As we know, there's a 3-point gap between Lauda and Hunt. It's at Fuji, October 24, 73 laps, and the weather was very wet and misty. So we have on our hands here the very first Japanese Grand Prix.
Yeah, and it's a championship decider. What more could you want, Louis, for your first Grand Prix?
Yeah, I've got a feeling I've heard this stat before. I'm not sure if Japan has had the most championships decided of any track. Or not that track, because it's different to Suzuka.
Yeah, but, Suzuka, it gets moved to Suzuka in the 80s, doesn't it?
Yeah, but Japan still, I think, might have that record. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah. So we start this race with Lauda 3-point lead, as I mentioned earlier, and there were no less than 4 Japanese drivers attempting to make their F1 debut, with 3 actually participating.
So there was also some extra special sponsorship for Alan Jones's Surtees, with the nose of his F1 car having hieroglyphics.
That's pretty cool.
So it got off to a pretty political start this race weekend.
Yeah, like most of the season.
Yep. It seems that McLaren upset Ferrari because on the Saturday prior to this race, they had undertaken a few exploratory laps, despite the fact that it had been verbally agreed that there should be no pre-race testing.
So the Ferrari team manager really pushed the point to the extent that he asked for practice to be extended, but the McLaren team and the organisers ignored his complaints. This is like Ugolini 2.0, and it's been a long time since we mentioned good old Ugolini, but Ordetto is becoming memorable. Yeah, Ordetto is becoming memorable in a different way.
Having said that, though, Ferrari have put in some good protests this season, though.
Yeah,
like they protested the wings, didn't they? Or was that them? Or they did protest the finish of the British Grand Prix one.
Yeah.
So
yeah, okay. So you're saying Ordetto's not so bad?
Yeah. No,
okay.
Ugolini was bad though. He just protested everything.
Yeah. So for those that are newish listeners to the podcast or who refuse to listen to the earlier episodes, we'll give you a very quick recap of Ugolini. He was a classic F1 team manager that protested, or our perception, and perception is reality, he protested everything and anything that went against Ferrari. And he was also in Maserati, and he also protested for Maserati when he was with them too. And sometimes he was in the right, but I think from memory, Rosa, he lost every single protest.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes. I don't remember him winning any.
That's why you see Ordetto was better, because at least Ordetto, he may have been a nutcase trying to make Regazzoni win a race, but at least he won protests.
So, to practice, of some interest was Japanese driver Hasemi in the Kojima Ford. He was initially setting some blistering times, leaving everyone else way behind. Well, clearly he had some hometown knowledge about this track, and he was given Dunlop tyres. So that was also an embarrassment to the Goodyear teams who hadn't faced any competition for 2 years.
Wouldn't it have been awesome if one of these Japanese drivers just got pole,
blitzed
the race, just won, and just showed up everyone? Obviously local knowledge, but wouldn't that have been awesome to see? And because we still don't have a Japanese race winner.
No, we don't.
Up to August 2025.
No.
So, yeah. So it wasn't long before Goodyear, having been bettered, offered up a better, softer compound, which, and I don't know how they did that so quickly. Like,
very quick.
They can't just mix rubber on it. You know what I mean?
Got one out of the back of the factory. I
don't know. I don't know how they did it so quickly, but enabled the normal front runner teams to reassert themselves. So when it came to Saturday practice session, things really heated up, and there was a huge battle for pole between Andretti and Hunt, with Andretti finally securing his second and only second pole position up to that point in his career, by 0.03 seconds ahead of Hunt.
That's pretty good. We're hearing a little bit more about Andretti, aren't we? He's been off and on. His last pole position was at the 1968 US Grand Prix, and that was his debut F1 race from memory. So that's interesting. That's 68. Where are we? 76. That's like 8 years ago.
Yeah, I know.
No,
right?
he's been around for a long time. He hasn't really done much, has he?
No.
So Hunt was second and Lauda was third, Watson fourth, Scheckter fifth, Pace, Pache sixth. And again, we've got 6 different makes in the first 6 positions. And look at Hunt and Lauda right next to one another on the grid.
I know. And we have 7 marks in the first 8 positions. So it even goes further. So a key feature of the 70s, and it just shows how close F1 was in this era that you had this happening. Or, as we've said in the past, number 1 drivers dominating the number 2 drivers. So it depends on how you look at it, right? You can play it both ways. So on race day, the circuit was completely awash. There was a steady downpour as well as a swirling mist, which actually limited visibility to no more than 100 meters. And despite this, the morning warm-up still took place.
I think Mike Lang summarised it perfectly when he said, as a demonstration of how to go aquaplaning, it was a total success as car after car spun or very nearly spun off the track.
Lauda himself was also extremely vocal and argued that they could not start the race in these conditions. And right up to the 1:30 p.m. race time, amongst the drivers and teams and race organisers, there were arguments for and against the race even taking place, with James and Nicky both saying it was too dangerous.
Interesting that James joined in there. I have to admit, this sounds like some of the worst rain conditions we have read about in F1, although the 1968 German race comes to mind. I recall Jackie Stewart saying that visibility there was so poor that he was using sound to navigate where the cars were. That's pretty freaky.
It is. As 1:30 came about, because obviously there was arguing going on, the weather slightly relented and the race organisers held another warm-up session, with many drivers simply ignoring it as they just felt it was simply too dangerous to even participate in that.
So the arguing about whether to even hold a race started up again. Eventually, the race organisers stated that the race would start at 3 p.m. on the basis that the heaviness of the rain had reduced and that the surface water was being brushed away.
So that was that. As 3 p.m. arose, still in atrocious conditions, the cars lined up, did their warm-up lap, and as soon as the cars reached the grid, the light immediately went green to start the race.
So I'm going to quote Mike Lang here again because he's got an awesome quote. The organisers gave the start signal almost immediately so as to avoid any further dissension.
It's such a funny thing to do, isn't it? It's such a typical,
Yeah.
You can't argue if you're driving at 200 or 300 kilometres an hour in the race.
That's right.
So this is the most protesting I have seen by the drivers live on the track, in all the times we've read about and done all this research. So the cars pretty much slithered away, with Hunt making a great start from second on the grid, while Watson did well from fourth to get sufficiently in front of poleman Andretti to slot into second place. So beyond the first three, it was impossible to tell who was who and where they were due to the spray, but they all did get through the first corner safely, amazingly.
That is amazing. That's remarkable. It shows how much skill these drivers have got to get through that first corner. So with the advantage of a clear track, though, Hunt had already built up a sizable lead ahead of Watson, who was about to slide off the track and lose a few positions.
In the meantime, Lauda was taking things very cautiously, given the streaming spray and blinding water going everywhere. I quote Mike Lang here, as he says it best. We've quoted him a little bit this race. Lauda made one of the most courageous decisions of his life by driving into the pits to withdraw.
That is a massive, massive call by Lauda, Luigi. And again, in the words that you like, the biggest big dog call of his career, I think. In other sources other than Mike Lang, it was said that he was even struggling to see as a result of the injuries he got from the German race, as he had a great deal of scarring and skin grafts around his face and eyes. So that didn't help matters. He chose to live, and he could easily still win this championship, as Hunt getting 4 points was still a massive call given the conditions.
Yeah, the Ferrari team did not take this very well. At first, the Ferrari team asked him about whether he wanted them to say there was an engine issue, but Lauda wanted it known that he voluntarily retired.
That's really interesting, isn't it? I don't know. Why would Ferrari want to hide the fact that the driver wanted to voluntarily retire?
Yeah, pride, embarrassment, because it's like their driver wasn't comfortable in the conditions. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, look, I agree with Mike Lang. It was a very courageous call.
I think it's massive. And it's a call that will live forever in the history of Formula One, because here we have a championship contender saying this is too dangerous, and he stood by his words. Other drivers have done this too, by the way, and they're coming in the future. But it's funny how we look at Lauda and we admire him, but some people criticise this other driver for doing it in the future. And
I
I'm
think
just
I
pinning
know
this
who you're
moment for a
talking.
future
Yeah.
discussion.
I don't know. I think that situation's a bit different, but when we get to that, we'll have that conversation. But look, I respected Lauder's stand on this. I like the way that he owned it. He owned that decision. He liked the transparency, and he wasn't one for politics. Like, he didn't want to hide behind his team or anything like that. So yeah, I respected. I think the fact, yeah, I know which one you're talking about. So we'll
Yeah.
see. I think there's a little bit
The
of a
shortest,
difference.
I think it's the shortest race in F1 history because the weather was so
Yeah,
bad. Just
yeah,
saying. Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Okay, so it
I'm
wasn't
laying the
long.
groundwork for a future event.
I know, I know, I
Anyway,
know.
yeah, I agree with you. I think it was a very brave, and the transparency is awesome because we would never have known this. If he said, yeah, call it an engine issue, that's how it would have been written. But knowing Lauder, he would have told us all later anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Well, other drivers followed him. So Fittipaldi and Pache also voluntarily withdrew from the race, as well as Perkins, although his retirement was partly voluntary and partly out of necessity due to very poor handling of his car. So, yeah, there were multiple drivers voluntarily withdrawing. We don't see that very often. But this really sends a message to the race organisers and, yeah, reflects the atrocious conditions that they were being asked to drive in.
Yeah. So Hunt was still leading. So the race was still going on, of course. Hunt was still leading on lap 10, but for a brief time, his lead was under threat as Brambilla charged right to his tail, but then had to pit with a tyre issue, which relegated the March driver down to 8th. So this left Hunt to enjoy a 9-second lead ahead of Andretti. Meanwhile, Hoshino in the Tyrrell on his debut had carved his way up to 3rd place.
That's amazing. In the conditions, like, he must know this track like the back of his hand. So while he was having a storming race, Brambilla was also having one because from 8th he charged back up to 2nd place. And on lap 22, the Italian made a charge down the inside line.
Yeah, maybe Brambilla can get some justice for Lauda.
Yeah. Just at that moment, though, Brambilla's engine had a fault of sorts, which caused his car to spin. And before he could recover it all, Hunt was away again. And good on Mike Lang for not attacking Brambilla for spinning. I think he gave him a free pass given the conditions.
Yeah, and it was an engine issue apparently. Yeah, so while all this was going on, Mass in the McLaren was now up to 2nd place as he had passed Andretti, which actually put the McLarens in 1st and 2nd in the race. At this time, the rain had finally stopped and the mist was lifting, and with this, finally the track was starting to dry a little.
So it's finally looking good for a Hunt championship now. It's starting to swing, isn't it? So we're at half distance. The McLarens were running nose to tail and there was no threat from anyone else until suddenly Muss was caught out on a wet patch and slid off into a guardrail to retire. There were numerous other retirements, including early race hero Brambilla.
So now Depayi was in 2nd place with Andretti 3rd, followed by Regazzoni, Jones and Nielsen. Jones and Nielsen sort of aren't normally up there, so this was certainly a bit of a topsy-turvy race, no doubt, because of the atrocious conditions at the start and the many retirements and the withdrawings. So there were now 20 laps remaining, and now that the track was drying, it was causing problems for the wet weather tyres as they were being overstressed by the heat of a dry track, with many drivers, including Hunt, seeking the wet track to cool the tyres down.
Yeah, in fact, Hunt had a very worn out left front tyre with some confusion between himself and the pit crew as to whether to come in to change it or not. Depayi was now catching Hunt at a rapid rate, as was Andretti.
So with only 11 laps to go, these 3 drivers were now nose to tail. And it wasn't long before Depayi and Andretti relegated Hunt to 3rd. Hunt consoled himself that he only needed to finish in the top 4 to take the championship.
So then more action as Depayi's rear tyre suddenly deflated, and before he knew it, Andretti was through into the lead, and Depayi was now limping to the pits for a tyre change, which relegated him to 5th place.
What a drama. So Depayi has been so impressive this year and so unlucky as well. So do you want more drama, Rosa?
Sure, hit me.
Okay. So, and this is in the era with no internet, no accurate lap charts, no digitization. Do you know what I mean? So 3 laps after this, Hunt was in trouble as his left front tyre was now disintegrating. Luckily for him, this took place right before the pits and he was able to make an immediate pit stop. It took an agonisingly long 27 seconds to change all 4 tyres, which dropped Hunt down to 5th place.
So, live championship table now has Lauda winning, and with just 4 laps to go, Hunt and Andretti, Regazzoni and Jones ahead of him, with both Regazzoni and Jones nursing tyre issues. With Regazzoni in this mix, he has got Bandini. I didn't put that in. You've written this in. It has
Just
got
read
Bandini.
what you've been told. Do your job, Rosa.
This is nowhere near a Bandini situation, but Luigi's making me say that it has got Bandini 1964 Mexico written all over it.
I've said I gave you the credit to say surely not.
Well,
that undoes it all.
I think I've made my feelings known on this comment.
So on lap 70, Hunt finally caught the pair and passed Regazzoni first and then quickly Jones in the Surtees.
They must have been in no condition to battle Hunt with overheating and stressed wet tyres on a drive track versus Hunt with fresh dry tyres.
Yeah.
Regazzoni didn't take Hunt out, Luigi. See?
Yeah. Or hold him up for the penalty style.
Bandini's accident was only incidental. It was not on purpose.
But Regazzoni didn't take him out. No, sorry. Regazzoni didn't hold him up either because I don't think he could. He could.
No,
his
tyres were shot. His tyres were gone. Yeah.
Yeah. Different era. So a lap later, Andretti crossed the line to win only his second ever Grand Prix and the first for Lotus in over 2 years. Depailler was second, Hunt third. Now, we'll come to this Hunt third bit in a second. Jones and Regazzoni fourth and fifth, and they were both limping over the line with pretty much flat tyres.
So at the race end, there was even more drama because Hunt did not realise he had finished third and he was about to start a verbal fight with his McLaren team for the lack of clear pit signals, only for a persistent member of the crowd to spell out that he had won the World Championship. He was quoted as saying, "It's a shame we couldn't share the championship," referring to Lauda.
Yeah. Hunt went on to give sympathy to Lauda for withdrawing, especially given that Hunt also felt that the race should not have started due to the appalling conditions. And Lauda said, "If I couldn't win it, I'm pleased James has."
Wow. So if there was any consolation for Ferrari, they were the Constructors' champion for the second year running. And apparently to Enzo Ferrari, that was the most important thing. But it's not, is it, Louis?
It's not.
It is a consolation prize. No one cares about the Constructors.
Yeah, except the constructors and PR purposes. But even the sponsors know it's about the drivers, you know? Well, we can all name the drivers. Like even me as a massive Formula One fan, I can name all the drivers that have won the championship from 1950 onwards off the top of my head, right?
Really? In order?
Can I name? Yeah, it's easy. It's easy,
wow.
Right? Yeah, and that's I don't know why. It's just something that's and I've got a bad memory, so that's impressive in that regard.
It is.
Can I name the constructors? Maybe 80% certainty. Yeah, I wouldn't be certain because I didn't really care, like most people.
Exactly, most people don't.
Yeah.
All right, so James Hunt ends up champion by 1 point on 69 points. Over Niki Lauda on 68 and Jody Scheckter finished third on 49. Interestingly, Regazzoni's on 31. Ferrari Constructors champions on 83 with McLaren second on 74. Tyrrell third on 71, which is pretty good for the Tyrrell team. That was a six-wheeler for most of the season.
Yeah, for most of the season. Yeah. And those McLarens and Tyrrells were not too far behind that Ferrari either.
No.
So, yeah. So
there you go.
We've got a lot to talk about in this, but do you want to do the wrap up because that's when we can do it?
Yeah, we'll do the wrap up. You go first.
Yeah, so the sheer volume of politics made this a very long but enjoyable season, very frustrating season. There were times when I was pro Ferrari or pro McLaren. I really liked that mid-70s Ferrari. That 312T Ferrari is such a beautiful car. And there were so many pivots, that it's hard to, even now, I struggle to find who do I really think should have won it. And so I'm very curious about the TP episode we're about to record shortly, because, that both teams did bad things and both teams did stupid things. So it's like
Yes.
that it's hard to know the degree to which one was more influential than the other. Obviously, Lauda's early domination. There were even purple patches by Depailler, and then Hunt's persistence through the season. The six wheel Tyrrell was so cool. And Hunt had a really strong end of season performance. I mean, he won, excluding this Japanese race, he won 3 of the last 4 races. So he was really in a zone himself. And even some of the humorous things, I would say, we had Peterson coming back. We had Watson and Penske getting their first win, and Watson having to shave his beard because he won that win. I don't think we mentioned that in the actual race review, but
No, we didn't.
Yeah,
We
he didn't.
didn't.
But
Yeah.
he had to shave his beard, and in those days, that was a big deal in the 70s for a male, I think. And Mike Land repeatedly referred to beards quite a lot. So Rosa removed it from the script, but she didn't
did.
remove it from my wrap-up. So there you go. Pretty dramatic finale, in Japan. And, of course, the comeback drive by Lauda. Mazzario, special call-out for saving Lauda's life. And my instincts tell me this was Lauda's championship. That's where I sort of land, but it's not a clear cut. It's like a 55-45.
Yeah,
if he
it's
didn't have the accident, it was a 100.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's my sort of views and wrap up
it's
on it.
interesting to hear you say that you're not totally over the line that it was Lauda's championship. Like, I actually think it was Lauda's championship. He should have won it. I know this isn't really coming from like a Ferrari point of view either. It was a pretty brutal end to a unfair season, I thought. Like, if you look at the results, Lauda won 5 of the first 8 races and James Hunt won 5 of the last 8 races. So it was pretty even. But then I think Lauda had more 2s and 3s and James Hunt had a lot more retirements. So, yeah, I think it should have been Lauda's. There was like you said, there were so many big and little moments that shaped this season end, like from strategy calls that Ferrari missed to, decisions that officials made. I think, that letting McLaren off of that 1.5 width issue was ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous. They should never have been allowed to appeal that decision the way that they did. So for me, that's why I think Lauda should have won it. Yep, the accident to Lauda was big and it affected him in ways that you wouldn't, like no one else would have come back from that accident like he did. But Hunt was a worthy adversary. Like I said, he won 5 of the 8 races in the back end of the season as well. It wasn't like he was just a lump that took advantage of Lauda not being there. He did what he needed to do. And he gave the season a lot of colour and character as well. I am glad he won it if Lauda didn't win it, a bit like what Lauda said. But yeah, what a season. It was huge. And do you know, Louis, this is the last championship for a British driver until Nigel Mansell in 92.
I know, it's a long time, isn't it?
That's huge. Yeah.
Yeah. And Britain having such a deep, rich history in Formula One.
Yeah.
They had a real drought there.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't think I'll ever recover from that race a few races ago when Regazzoni was sitting in second and he didn't go back to. I don't think I'll ever recover from that. It's so stupid, so deeply stupid. That was the race Hunt retired.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. Give
and just
Lauda
one comment,
a few more points.
Just one more point, and that would have changed this again. And I was going to mention just one last little quick thing was you mentioned how the accident to Lauda changed him in many ways. He never was a good qualifier after that incident.
Yeah, okay.
Never again. He was like always qualifying 5th or 6th or 8th, and you'll see that going forward. And it's like it just shows what it did to him mentally. but he still kept driving and still was very impressive, as
Yes.
we'll find
Well,
out.
there's still some big moments coming up in his career, isn't there?
There are, so it's not
So
over
it
for
just
Lauda.
shows you how skilled he was. So
He's not
yes.
going to do a Fittipaldi, that's for sure.
No, he's not. All right. Well, we might leave it there, Louis. We've got the TP episode coming up soon.
Yeah.
But yes, we'll catch everyone for that. And then on to 77. It's going to be boring. 77 is going to be boring.
Oh, nothing can beat 76, really. I mean, they don't make a movie about 77, do they? They make it about 76.
No.
But I am super curious. I don't know the TPA results. I think you might know the TPA results.
I do. Yeah.
I have no idea. Yep. I'm predicting Lauda to win TP. That's my prediction.
We'll see how you go. I'm not going to let anything out of the bag.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Next time, don't miss the TP one.
Yep. See you, everyone.
Bye. Bye.